Hey, Christy Mattoon here with Mind Rewire. This is part 5 that we're heading into right now of the series on prayer and an effective prayer. Last week we did a little bit of talk about manifesting in prayer and how that all works together. And this week we're going to move forward and talk more about manifesting and how it works in accordance with the feelings and alignment with your system, but specifically related to healing. So when you're trying to heal a physical ailment or you're trying to work your system through something, what that all means and how it actually works. So this is Mind Rewire. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It does help me with YouTube standings, and it'll get me towards a goal that I'm trying to reach of so many subscribers, and I would really appreciate that. But we'll go ahead and jump right into this talk about healing, manifesting, and prayer. So when we're talking about healing something, and especially in accordance to prayer, we're talking basically about petitioning or asking for what it is that we're needing. And there's so many parts about prayer and manifestation and all these different things. It's easy to get them confused and kind of jumbled up. So I've tried to take it and kind of piece it out so it's really easy. But healing seems to be the one part that gets really caught up in people's minds, right? With the feeling, with gratitude, how to stay in that place of what you're wanting. Because if you're wanting a whole physical body and all you can do is picture the ailment or the issue or the symptoms that you're having, that can be really tough to do. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's start with basically manifestation. Let's start with the idea about all the different pieces or the different ideas behind it. So you've got law of attraction, you've got reaping and sowing, and they're basically the same thing, just came from different sources. And even karma, right? It's all about what you put in is what you get back out. So basically the same thing, but there's a key to all of them. You have to match your intention with your energy. And we talked about that last week. You have to have that heightened level of energy that matches whatever it is that you're asking for. And you have to get that excitement level up. You have to get those chemicals up inside your physical body to trigger that into the outward spiritual end of it. And it's hard to describe that until you feel it, until you recognize what that feels like in your system. And I think it's a little bit different for everybody. But when they come together to meet, that thing that you're asking for manifests right in front of you, and it raises your level of feeling even higher. So it's really important to get that feeling first. If you start with the feeling, you already know what it is you're asking for and what you want. If you start with that feeling before you go into the prayer or into the manifesting process, whatever you do use, that feeling is going to carry you a long way. So it's almost the same idea that we had in part 2 of this series, where we talked about inner preparation. You start with that inner preparation and you're bringing up that feeling inside of you. You're getting it started going first so that you can actually feel it, and then stacking the feelings, and it might be even more feeling between gratitude, knowing what it is that you're wanting, the thought, the words. You're stacking all of these things right on top of each other. And that's when you get the greatest results. If you're just standing there asking and you're just flatly asking for something with no emotion, no energy behind it, it usually doesn't go very far. So we're going to talk about what the Bible actually says about, it actually has a verse in there that says, you ask and you shall receive. That's a big deal. We're told that if we ask, we're going to receive. So it says asking, if you ask, you're going to receive, knock and the door will be open. And then in the book of James, it actually says that there's a place and time when it never showed up for you, it never manifested because you didn't even ask. In the book of James, it actually says that. So the question would be, did you even ask? If you didn't get that thing you keep thinking about and longing for, did you actually put it out in such a way that it was a petition? That it was something you were asking for in prayer? And if the prayer wasn't in a place where the energy and the level of what you're asking for matched, was it ever even heard? Right? Did it ever get far enough to even be heard? Once you ask, there's a train of thought that says you should just expect it to show up. Kind of like reading a menu. I think we've all heard this idea. When you order something off a menu, You just sit there and wait until the waitress brings it out. If you order steak and potatoes, you don't expect her to bring something else. You expect her to bring steak and potatoes. But I think the difference is that level of emotional value that we put to it. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. So because of the plane that we live in, there's also the concept of time that we have to deal with. And that's kind of can hang up manifestation. And that's where something called patience comes in. There is a place where you have to be patient enough, and there's this little time gap between the time that you ask and the time that you receive something. Sometimes. It doesn't always work that way. I think there's a place when you can actually hit things dead on the mark, and it happens just like that. I really believe that can happen. I've seen it happen. But there's always a place when you ask for something, and it has to, even if you get close to the mark, things have to line up because there's other people's intentions and other people's thoughts maybe coming into play here. And so you have to wait through that time period for things to line up before it shows up for you and actually manifests. So your mind starts thinking of all kinds of other things, and we start disrupting this whole idea because when that time gap occurs, we start changing our minds. We start thinking of other things that we want. And you can't do that. You have to stick with your original plan. Once you decide on something and you ask for it, if you start altering it, it starts altering the period of time that it takes for it to show up because of the things that are trying to align. Does that make sense? So once you decide what it is you want, stick to it. Don't change your plan. Every time you do that, you're sending a different message. You're sending a different scope of energy. And every time that changes, the plan has to change and the heavens have to rearrange in order to accommodate. So it can take longer to actually manifest what it is you're trying to get. If the plans are altered for it to get back to you, it can be a little bit difficult. Don't alter your plans. That's what this basically comes down to. Stay the course of whatever it is you've planned. If there are alterations or things have to shift and change, no, put that inside the process and then realign your thinking, the thing that you're trying to attract and the energy that you're putting out towards it. Try to get those as closely matched as you possibly can, and you'll find that the time gap actually shortens and closes. So in prayer, when you're actually asking for something, stay in the position of reverence. Stay in that inner preparation feeling where you have that great inner feeling going on, where you're holding a really high amplitude of feeling in your system, and then lay it out. What is it you're wanting? So Jabez got what he wanted because he told the Lord and he asked the Lord to bless him, and he knew he was already blessed, and then to increase his territory, and he got what he asked for. So you can take a look around the globe at different churches and different people all over history and time, praying for all sorts of things, and then never getting it. And my question is always kind of the same, like, why? What is that all about? And it's like this weird kind of fight and struggle between humanity and God, or between humanity and heaven, for things like prosperity and healing and whatever it is you need to survive, or things that you just even want. And especially in this day and age that we live in, it seems to be even bigger. So one of the questions I've heard, is it because the wants are so great? Is that why people aren't getting what they're asking for? Or is it just kind of a hit and miss situation? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I've even heard that with the law of attraction, people saying they're using the idea of law of attraction and then saying, it's just hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but they don't really know why. I actually talked to a pastor not too long ago about this idea of healing, and that it's in God's will for you to heal. And so if it's in his plan for humanity to be healthy, and if it's in his plan for you to have good health, then why are people all around the world sick? Why is this happening? Especially when somebody gets sick, whatever has happened, and you're praying and praying for health, and it never shows up. How do you justify that in your own system? Right? As a person talking to God, how do you start to justify that? So basically what he told me was that there's no way we can fully know God's plan, and okay, I can understand that. But it is in God's will that you be healthy. There's no doubt about that. He even sent an amazing healer to this planet, his son, to teach us how to heal. Jesus was amazing at it. That's what he did. You know, you've got this amazing spectacle of a person running around the earth healing all of these people. So why in this day and age would God leave somebody sick when he actually had sent somebody here to teach us how to heal? And he himself was healing people all around him. So my conversation basically left me with a really awkward feeling in my system with this guy. And what he told me, what he ended up telling me, was that he just couldn't get on my platform. What we were talking about, a part of it, was the food and the chemical association with the food in our system nowadays, and the way our food is so unhealthy, and how it can actually keep you from your healing. If you don't understand what you're eating, the chemicals and the poisons that you're eating are going to keep your body sick and not functioning properly. Can God override that? Probably. Of course he can. If you hit the right amplitude of vibration, I'm sure your whole body could just like shake it all off and come out totally different on the other side. But most people can't obtain that level of vibration. Some people do get healed of whatever ailment there is, whatever it's going on, by somebody just laying on their hands and praying. In fact, a lot of people get healed that way. But then they get sick again. And something happens and they get mad at God and they blame God. Why am I sick again? Like, you healed me. Why'd you take it away? What if he didn't take it away? What if it's because it was something you were doing? What if it was because of something like just eating poison and lack of knowledge about the food supply? My guess is that's what happens most of the time. I don't think God really has anything to do with that. We have free will choice, and in our free will choice, that's some of what happens. This same man actually talked to me for a few minutes about faith and how it could be a matter of faith. And I just totally disagree with that. I don't think it's a matter of faith. I don't think that's what's going on at all. I don't think you don't have enough faith. I literally think something else is going on, that we're not eating clean food, we're not in a clean environment, and it's just keeping us from our healing, and we're not doing the spiritual homework, we're not doing the spiritual exercises that would actually keep our vibration high enough to keep our body clear of those things, even if you were eating them. Does that make sense? So the other thing, I think that when Jesus was here, he was teaching healing. He was teaching his apostles how to do what he did. And then he said we were going to be able to do greater things. And most of us can't. And I question why that is. I don't think you're supposed to pray to God to ask him for healing. Maybe ask him for guidance, ask for instruction. You can ask for healing too, of course. But he was teaching us how to heal ourselves. And actually, our bodies are made to be able to heal themselves. With the right combination of food and the minerals and the vitamins, all the good stuff we're supposed to have, your body should totally heal itself. Hitting a right vibration can shake off any of the junk that you have internally and cause you to have a healing. So praying to God and asking for a healing is like you're telling God that you don't believe that it was his will to heal you or to keep you whole, because you're praying and asking him to do it again. So the apostles had to lay their hands on people. He put the power within us to do the same. And so I guess my question now would be, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we going around and laying our hands on each other in the simplest of moments? Because they could heal each other without a whole lot of thought or effort. And so what were those people doing when they were talking about healing? Or when they were praying and manifesting and petitioning health inside these bodies? I think it's just an interesting question to ask, and I think there's a very simple answer for it. Basically, the properties in prayer that make it operative, remember this was my thought on prayer, is that every thought you think is a prayer. You have to stay in that place. Every thought that comes out of your mind, every word that comes out of your mouth is a form of prayer. It never stops. So when it goes out into the universe, it brings back nothing negative. It only brings back positive results. You always are in alignment with that higher level of feeling. You can always bring that back up anytime you need it. And it works beautifully to create the miracles that we're all expecting. So the properties of prayer are basically the thought, the thought that you think, whatever it is you're asking for and wanting. And then whatever it is that you're trying to bring alive inside your life, aligned with that feeling. And when that feeling is heightened enough inside your system, your body produces the results automatically. And that's what I think that miracle is. Can God reach down and touch you and just cause you to heal in an instant? Of course he can. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what I think is we're supposed to be doing this more than we are. So you also produce a level of vibration from your spirit, and it's kind of different levels. A level of feeling from your spirit, it's different levels. So aligning that feeling and then allowing the energy and nature of all this to work together just brings it about to be the way it's supposed to. You can get in the way of this on your own just by second guessing it. If somebody around you is second guessing you, they can get in your way because they cause you to doubt, right? And so that brings your level of vibration down, and that by itself will throw you off, and you don't want to do that. You have to stand firmly convicted in the thing that you're asking for, and then you have to be open and ready to receive. And then, of course, the other side of that is giving. And so I really think that's how this works. Sometimes we may wonder why things happen and even when it's going to happen. We talked about that time gap. The doubt's going to throw it off, so you have to be really careful of having doubt. Do doubt and faith go hand in hand? If you're doubting, it's not necessarily that you're lacking faith. Your faith is still there. The doubt comes from a feeling from somebody else, from yourself. It's that level of vibration inside your system, and it brings you down to a different level. So if I'm asking for this and all of a sudden doubt comes in, right, I'm missing the mark. So you got to bring it back up. So one of the things I tell people is don't say things like it must not be in God's will. If you know it's something that's in God's will, like health, don't say that, because you're sending negative chemicals through your own system. So you have to know what's in God's will, basically, is what that equates to. It's very clearly outlined. Health is in God's will. Prosperity is in God's will. Love is in God's will. He has a plan for you for a prosperous life, to be in health, and to just have, we're supposed to have a joyous existence here. So you can't tell yourself things that are going to cause your brain to go into a state that brings you down into those other levels. Your brain will literally start digging for information if you say something like, this isn't in God's will. It must not be in God's plan that I'm healthy. God must have made me sick for some reason, right? Brain is going to start going crazy looking for information, and it's going to come up with something that's not helpful. So you want to stay in that other place and keep yourself from kicking and fighting to get out of those rabbit holes. And we literally dig those ourselves. That's not God's doing. That's us doing that. So one more time, the properties of an effective prayer is the thought, right? You got to have the thought, the thing that you want, the emotion. You got to have that feeling. That is so huge. Without the emotion, you miss out on a huge chunk of all of this. I actually wanted to tell you a story Greg Braden tells about this monk in Tibet that he sat in front of. I believe it was Tibet. And he asked this guy about prayer, basically. And what he was asking was, what are you doing when you pray? And the monk didn't directly answer his question, if I remember right. So he had to reframe it. And the reframe on the question was, what are you doing on the inside when you pray? And what Greg was saying was, I see what you're doing on the outside, swinging your incense balls and bowing and swaying and your hands together in prayer position, all of these things. What are you doing on the inside? Because you can stand there and repeat all the stuff that, a priest or a monk does on the outside, and nothing will happen. It's what's going on the inside. And basically what it equated to was what he was feeling. It's not the words that you're saying. It's not all of these other things. It's the feeling that you have. And when it matches, when those come into alignment, that's when you get the win. So it's about what they were doing on the inside, and it was about that feeling. And I actually think that when you can take that feeling and amplify it to another level, and use your natural ability to alter your own brain state, which is those chemicals. If you can direct all of that, if you can direct your energy straight into your brain and alter your brain waves, you can get to a totally different level that allows healing on a different level. Maybe even exponentially faster, I don't even know, a whole different level of prayer at that angle. So you get a whole nother effect. So the goal would be to find yourself in that feeling. Go into gratitude. Feel it. You have to feel it. That's the biggest part of all this, is feel it, feel it, feel it. Keep feeling it. As you're feeling it from that state of gratitude, you're going to go right into acknowledgement. You want to acknowledge God, acknowledge the power, acknowledge the energy, acknowledge the universe, even acknowledge yourself, right? And then right back into gratitude. Grateful, we've got to feel it, feel it, feel it, and then ask. What are you asking for? And then once you ask again, you're feeling, feel from your heart. I'm going to actually do another video about using your heart as a mechanism for release. That'll be really interesting, and we'll be doing that real soon, and I'll try and tag it to this video so you can find it real easy. But after you ask, you're going to sit and wait and receive that higher level of feeling, because it's going to amplify. It's going to get bigger and bigger in your system. And then you're just going to be in gratitude. End your prayer however you want to end your prayer. I don't think that's an important part of it so much. In the name of Jesus. I've heard people use amen. Obviously, that's a pretty big one. What is the other one I've heard a lot? And so it is, meaning that it is what you've claimed it is. It's finished, right? It's going to be done exactly the way you've laid it out. I think that's really how the energy of all of this works, is if you match the level, the amplitude, the heightened level of emotion with whatever that thought is that you have, they have to be a match. So we're going to do a part 6 on effective prayer. I'm not sure what part 6 is right now, but I'll figure it out. We're going to do a part 6, and I'll wind it in here. So I can't thank you so much for being here. These were a little bit longer than I had intended for them to be. I hope they're helpful. I hope it's useful information for you. And please go ahead and like or subscribe to Mind Rewire. I'd greatly appreciate that. And we'll see you next time.